guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Millennial Wave. I'm Rachel Kayleen, and this is episode 44. We're getting up there. We're really getting up there. Today I have Keith Jouganatos in the building with me right now. He is the voice of the Sacramento River Cats, y'all. They are champions. They actually just won the whole season. Is that how you say it?
AAA champions.
AAA champions. So for those of you that don't know River Cats, they're a minor league baseball team, and they're an extension of the Giants. Am I correct?
Yes, AAA affiliate of the Giants. So everybody that you see nowadays that comes up out of the Giants organization is from the Sacramento River Cats. So yeah, that's what we do.
You know what's so crazy to me? So when I first started learning about how baseball works, my main sports are like basketball, football, like those are the ones that I follow. But if I do follow, anyway, baseball, I heard that there's like 1 million fucking steps to get to the MLB.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought it was just like, oh, you get recruited out of like college and you're in the MLB. Like boom.
No, yeah, baseball is one of those sports where you have a whole bunch of alleyways, just like in life. There's a whole bunch of alleyways for you to get where you need to go. And some guys will go to college and play ball. Some guys will take the high school route and get drafted straight out of high school. But yeah, you have a lot of different alleyways and ventures on how to get to the big leagues. Just like anything else in life, you have a whole bunch of different ways that you can get to where you need to go.
Yeah, 100%. So what made you want to I almost said audition. What made you want to apply and work for the River Cats organization?
Well, it actually happened kind of crazy. My boy at the time hit me up around New Year's Eve of actually 2 years ago, and he said, hey, why don't you apply? There's this opening for a public address announcer. For me, I am not a public address announcer by chart, I would say. I do play-by-play stuff, but I guess people say my voice translates. So for me, I said no, because what people don't realize is I had actually auditioned for the job the year before.
Oh, so you did audition. Yeah. So I'm fucking right.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
cool.
You're right on that. But
okay.
I didn't get a call back. I didn't get anything. So I was like, nah, you know what? They didn't call me back, this and that. And he's just like, no, dude, like you'd be perfect for it. Just go ahead and see what you can do. And so for me, I applied, and I was actually at the Roseville Galleria getting something for a friend for his birthday or whatever. And they called me up, and they said, this is Amber Wyatt, who's my boss now. Shout out to my boss, Amber. And she said, we'd like to give you a phone interview. Do you have some time? And so we had the phone interview, and she said, okay, if we go forward with the process, we will be in touch. And so they called me back. They said, we want to bring you in for a second interview. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, cool. So I get in there, second interview, and like when you go, like you see like all the history on the walls and things of that nature. And so for me, it was kind of intimidating. Go in, have a good second interview. She says, we're still looking at people, so don't hold your breath. For me at the time, I was in between jobs. So I was like, okay, well, is there any chance we can speed this up a little bit? No. So then they bring me in for a open mic audition. And basically it's what it sounds like. You go into the booth where I work now, and all the windows are open, and they say, okay, read this, this, and this. And literally the bosses are in back of you, like watching you read them. And so then they go, are you ready? And I'm like, I'm ready. And so just the first time, like my voice went across the ballpark, it just felt good. And then about a week went by, and I'll never forget it to the day I die. I was on Highway 80. And if anybody lives in Sacramento, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it was just bumper-to-bumper traffic, Highway 80, trying to get towards, I want to say, Reading on 5. And they called me up, and they offered me the job on the spot, and I was like, I'll take it. And I'll never forget, like, just my mom, of all people, shout out to Mom, said, when you get the job, call me. I was like, Mom, I'm probably not going to get the job. Like, you're only 25. Like, when you get the job, call me. And I'll never forget, I called my mom up and went straight home and told my boys, and been doing it ever since. Blessed by God and everything, just to be here and doing what I love in a place that I grew up in. There's no better feeling.
Yeah. I want to know, like, when you did the open mic, were there other people there to do the open mic?
So there was Amber Wyatt, who's my official boss. There was Emily, who's in charge of marketing and promotions. And literally, it was just us three in the booth, and it was crazy because like they were giving me like the things to like read and things of that nature. And I'm not saying like I'm a great reader, but I read the things like in like 5 minutes. So I was there for like 10 minutes. So the only thing in my head, like as I'm reading it, It's just be slow, control your breathing, things that I used to do when I was, working my way up. And so I spent 5 minutes reading the stuff, and then the other 5 was just like, okay, don't blow this. like you're trying to focus, but you're just like, man, don't ruin this, man. but yeah, just thankful that they liked what they heard, and been doing it ever since.
Did you mess up any lines?
I wouldn't say I messed up any lines. I think my biggest thing whenever I'm doing a job, whether it's play-by-play or with the River Cats, it's just control your breathing and sometimes just pause for a little bit. So I wouldn't say I messed anything up, but definitely like your heart's going like 100 miles per hour the whole time.
Yeah, 100. Okay, wait. So like pressure like that, how would somebody kind of get into the zone? Like I feel like so many people, when they have opportunities like that and they don't want to mess it up, they kind of let the nerves and the pressure take over them. Like, have you ever been like that in the past, or how do you kind of develop that confidence?
I would say, people come up to me all the time, say, trying to get into the business, what's your biggest advice for dealing with that kind of pressure, or I guess you could say anxiety, and things of that nature. And my biggest thing is that, it's good to be nervous. It's good to have that buildup because it shows you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't get that. You understand me?
Yeah.
So for me, it's whenever I'm doing a job or anything like that, you realize there's thousands of people in the ballpark, or there's people listening over the stream when you're doing a game. For me, my biggest thing is like, okay, you know what? Whatever happens, just let it fly, but do your best. My pops always told me growing up, whatever happens, just do your best. And just let the cards fall where they may, because for me, it's something that I love. I've grown up in this business. I've been doing it since I was 15, 16. And so for me, you understand there's going to be times, good days, bad days. There's going to be times where you mess up, times where you say, oh, I should have done that better. But all of it makes you a better person. So I would tell people, you know what? It's okay to get nervous. But as long as you give 100%, that's all that matters. But I would just say, remember why you're doing it. Remember why you're in this business. And remember that it's fun. Life's supposed to be fun. People take stuff way too seriously. As long as you have fun with something, it don't matter what anybody else thinks. But I would just say relax. Just do what God has you blessed to do and carry on.
I like it. So what made you even want to get started in something like this? Like, I feel like so many people don't know what they want to do. And you said you basically have been doing it since you're 15, 16. So what kind of triggered it?
I grew up in a great environment. I grew up with 2 great parents, divorced, but I grew up with 2 great parents who loved me unconditionally, which was a change from where I grew up, because a lot of people that I know didn't have one person in their life, or parents were neglecting them. So for me, I was allowed at a very young age to have 2 parents who encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. It really actually started, I would be at home playing Madden on PlayStation 2. This is how old I am. Madden on PlayStation 2, and I would turn the volume all the way down, and I would talk about the game that was going on while you're playing the game. I kid you not. And I stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and I never forget it to the day I die. My mom, we didn't grow up with a whole lot of money. We weren't poor, but we weren't well off.
You weren't rich,
yeah,
but you weren't poor.
But yeah, exactly on that. And my mom, somehow, some way, she had the money to send me to this camp in Los Angeles, this journalism camp. And at that camp, it was like a mind-boggling, like it just boggled my mind just how like there was things in place to encourage your dreams. So we went to like a Dodgers game one day, and then we did like highlights with each other at the camp. And you actually stayed overnight for like a week straight in LA. And it was the first time I had been out of Sacramento. I think I was like 13 or 14, just going into high school. And that's when really like my passion just like for this business, just really I locked onto it, because where we come from in Sacramento, there's always people that said, oh, well, no one from Sacramento makes it. Well, that's not true. But you have to have that belief, and you have to have people that encourage you to say you can do something with your life. And I think now more than ever in the city, that's what I'm seeing is great. But for me at the time, like, it was amazing just to get out with people that wanted to do the same thing I did in this business and see that it's possible, but you got to work for it. And so for me, that was when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. This is really what I want to like just push forward with. And I've been going ever since.
And I like how you said that you were around people that were in the same business,
For
or
sure.
at least wanted to be in the same business
For
as
sure.
you, because although you weren't the one, did you find the camp, or did your mom find it and then she sent you to it?
My mom found the camp in this magazine. This is how old we are. Like, there was a magazine, and my mom said, look, Keith, like, there's this camp that you can go to. And they, and my biggest thought was when I was like 12 or 13 was like, it's cool, but like, I didn't want us to have to pay for this, not knowing how my mom was going to find the money, because I knew that the camp was expensive. But once she did, in the back of my mind, it says, okay, a lot of these kids are going to go for vacation. You can't have that mindset. You've got to be able to say, okay, I got to learn everything as much as possible. And I took that camp and I went back to Sacramento. I said, okay, this is possible now. And for me, I didn't treat it like a vacation. I treated it like, okay, you've got to take this seriously. And that's why I think now more than ever at a young age, I take everything in this business I do seriously, because in our line of work, if you are not about it, if you're not 100 about it, you will not survive.
Why? Why do you think that is? Like, tell me something about the business that most people don't know.
Well, I will say this off the top. Number one, it's very competitive. For every person that you see like me in Sacramento, there's at least tens or thousands of them that never made it. I know guys, I know dudes that never make it in this business that were 10,000 more times talented than I am. 10,000 more talented. But what separates the great ones from the people that never make it is that they treat it like it's their livelihood. And that's why I tell young guys that are trying to be broadcasters now, they say, what's the biggest tip? And I just say, study, work on your craft. Are you getting game notes? Are you looking up newspaper articles before the games that you're doing? Are you looking up stats? And people say, you're doing all that for high school football, this and that. I said, I have to. Because if I don't take it seriously now, how do you think I'm going to be if I get a job doing college football or NFL potentially? This is where it starts. Everyone wants to talk about how do I get from down here to up here. But no one ever talks about the work that it takes. Like, you know more than I do. The work it takes when you're going towards a goal, you've got to start that at a young age. You've got to really start it. So everything that we do now transfers over into the end game. You don't get to the end game unless you are working hard. The other thing I would say is that it's dog eat dog. This business is one of the cruelest, toughest businesses to get into.
Entertainment? Like, would you consider it like entertainment, broadcasting, media?
Yeah. People think because I'm in a different line of work as opposed to a lot of my boys who are aspiring to be musicians or aspiring to be whatever you aspire to be, dancers, musicians, whatever you want to call it, that it's not the same. It is the same. It's just a different title. You have got a lot of things coming your way, pitfalls, people that want something from you, leechers, things of that nature. You will encounter the same things in our business that you encounter in any other business. But you have got to be able to understand that there's going to be good days, but there will also be 10,000 times more bad days. For every good day I've had in this business, I've had at least 5 or 6 bad days. But I think the one thing is that you don't quit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have that mindset where it's like, no matter what happens, I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to break. I'm not going to quit. And for me, the one thing I would tell people is it is a business that is hard to get into, but if you do the time and you put in that work, you will reap the benefits. But you have to understand that not every day is going to be great. And that's what I would tell them.
Yeah. I think it's incredible. And one of the things that I would encourage anyone who's listening to this is what you pointed out. When you were younger, you were literally playing games on your PlayStation, and you noticed that you were basically explaining the whole entire game and like what was happening play by play. Yeah. So that's what, like, when you have things happen like that in your life, when you have all these like, when you feel like, oh wow, like I might be good at this, or I notice that I'm doing something that most people don't do when they're in a situation like this, it's something that you have to follow. You don't just ignore it. You embrace it and you go after it. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Is just like, I think for me is that, like, especially in this business, it's just in life in general, you will always have people that says, well, you ain't where this person's supposed to be or that person's supposed to be. Everyone runs their race different. Everyone gets where they need to get at a different pace. For some people, it's at 18 years old. I know some people in their line of work, their stuff popped off at 35. So you always have to have that mindset where it's like, okay, I can't compare myself to the other person. I can't compare myself. Let's say, for example, if you and I are in the same business, I can't compare myself to you because we're different people with different situations and different hurdles that we had to go over, maybe at different times, but we both will encounter things, but at a different rate. Yeah. And so for me, what I try to tell people the most is just have fun with whatever you're doing. If you're having fun with whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter. And that's why I think a lot of people get tied up into, well, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Well, who cares? If you're enjoying what you're doing, That's all that should matter. And for me at this point in my life, I'm having fun going to the ballpark, doing games for high school football. I love this business with a passion. I've loved it since I was 13, 14 years old. So for me, every day involved in it is a great day. And, you know, I just let the cards fall where they may, and I just want to have fun with it. And that's the biggest thing I tell people, is just have fun with whatever you're doing. If you're worrying about what other people think, then you're not having enough time and enough mental capacity to think about the blessings that God has for you. And so for me, I'm just blessed by God to do this every day and talk to people like you and things of that nature, because it's a blessing every day for me, where I came from to where I am now. Every day is a great day in this business.
And do you feel like one of the things is, do you feel like there's a pinnacle that you need to reach? Like you talk about how you're constantly trying to progress and get better, and more so reach this idea that we all have in our heads of where we want to be. So what's that to you?
I think for me, it's never been about myself. I think if there was anything I wanted to do, is just buy my mom a house. That'd be the biggest thing. Buy my mom a house, and I'd be good for life. For me, growing up, where you have a lot of people, especially from here, I love coming from here, but you had a lot of people growing up say, well, he ain't going to do nothing. And I tell people all the time, when I go to these middle schools and I go to these high schools to talk to these kids, is don't ever listen to what the person next to you says if it's negativity, because you will deal with negativity in your life on a constant basis. For me, the pinnacle is just living. I don't really, you know, necessarily have like a spot where I want to get to. It's great to have goals. It's great to have a mindset where it's like, I want to go here, here, and here. But if it never happens, I wouldn't trip, because for me, God has blessed me with a life where I got a great family. I got great people around me. I know great people. And that's the blessing, is that the people that you meet along the way, and the situations you find yourself in, that for me is the end all be all. Because it's like, you know, even if, you know, I'd love to call NFL football or NCAA football. I would love it. But if it never happens, then it doesn't matter, because I've lived my life. I've helped people, I like to think, and I've just tried to do what I love. And if you do what you love, that's all that's going to matter at the end of the day. So I tell people all the time, man, just enjoy the ride, because you never know what's going to happen. You can't plan for tomorrow, but if you wake up today with a great attitude and great positivity, then you will always be a winner no matter what.
Yeah. Your mindset is really strong. You have a lot of like confidence.
Thank you.
You are very grateful. It seems like you practice gratitude on a daily basis. I'm assuming praying and, you know, being grateful for all your blessings and everything. So how does someone develop that type of mindset? Like, you obviously had a great upbringing.
Thank you.
You have had a lot of support, and then you have a really strong mindset. So how did you develop something like that? Was it in school? Was it your teachers? Was it your mentors? Was it books?
For me, when I really started to get into this business and I really started to break in, and I was around people who, you know, saw that I was doing work and coming up, it was one of the situations where my ego was huge. And one day, well, I just think that, you know, I tell people all the time, success isn't hard. What I mean by that is anybody is going to have success. You could walk out this door right now and $500 come right to you. $500 richer. And you start thinking about the possibilities with that money. I can do this, I can do that. You know, I got $500 more than anybody else. And in the blink of an eye, you could lose your wallet, all that stuff, and you'd be right back to square one. I've had situations where, like, I thought, oh, I'm on the way up, I'm this, I'm that. And I had people tell me, like, you know, you're not what you think you are. And I looked around one day.
But did those people that tell you that, were they at a different spot that was what you aspired to be?
They were people who had been in my position that told me, you know, as quickly as it comes, it can get taken away. I think the great thing about my life is that I've gone from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in different situations. And so I think for me, I've had to take a look in the mirror a while ago and say, you know what? What does it really mean if I'm not trying to use this for a positive? What you have right now in Sacramento, I feel like, is half and half. You got half of the people who have this platform and they think they're the greatest thing in the world. And you got another half of people in Sacramento that have the same platform. And the difference is they're using their platform positively. They're trying to help people. They're trying to bring awareness to certain things. And for me, I think it's great that people recognize that I'm doing what I love. It's great that people recognize that I'm trying to, make my way in this business. But, and for the record, everyone has a platform. The notion that no one has a platform is ridiculous. But I think for me, if I don't use my platform for good and I'm not using the platform God gave me to help others, then I'm wasting my time and my life is all for naught. So for me, I just try every day when people say, oh, I see what you're doing, great job. I try to show that gratitude. I never want to come off as a person where, oh, thanks, man, I already know. Because every day you've got to be able to humble yourself with the blessings God gives you. If you're not humble, then eventually you will be humbled. And so it's important to remember that because karma is always right around the corner. So I try my best, thank you. I really appreciate the blessings God has given me, but I always try to reciprocate that to other people and remind them we all have a platform, but it's what you do with it that counts. It's not who you are. If you don't bring anything else to the table besides, oh, I'm this, I'm that, then you have an identity. And you're an empty person in my mind.
I want to know, so you just said that if you're not humble, you will be humbled.
Yes.
What are some ways that people can practice being humble? I know that's like a weird question, but how can someone that is growing constantly, that is starting to see a lot more things in their life that they've never seen before in a positive way, and they that's when they start to get the ego, because like you mentioned, you had an ego. So does something have to happen in your life where you get humbled and then you'll start realizing you need to be humble, or is there a way to prevent it?
I think certain things happen for a reason. I've always been a person growing up says, God doesn't make any mistakes. And so I think there's been certain things in my life that have shaped me the way I am now. And I think there's certain things that can happen in anybody's life that shape them for better or for worse. But for me, honestly, I just wake up every day and I try to be the best person I can be. And we're not all perfect. I understand that. But I think for me, I really don't know what happened. But about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, I looked around and I kid you not, man, I was in a nightclub. I was surrounded by all these people and I just said, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to this than just going out for appearances, knowing these people for appearances. And I really just tried to say, okay, for better, for worse, I want to make a difference. That's why I go to these high schools and I go to these middle schools, because a lot of these kids, man, it's the most impressionable age. People talk about all the time, well, at 6 or 7 years old, a kid is the most impressionable. No. It's when you're in middle school and you're in high school and you're starting to become yourself and develop what you want to do. And I tell people all the time, man, with these kids, I tell them, I can't stress it enough. Just because you are not a celebrity, just because you're not a rapper, dancer, Instagram model, whatever you want to call it, you can still make a difference. We need firefighters. We need great policemen in the police force, the way things are now. Don't get me started. We need politicians that are trying to make a difference. We need people that are trying to help the hungry, feed the homeless, things of that nature. And so I think for me, the biggest thing I try to remind people is that just because you don't have clout, just because you're not popular per se on that level, you can still make a difference. You're still the same kind of hero. But for me, I think when it comes to being humbled, I just think that everyone should look around and remember what they have in their life and feel blessed to have that. Because there's a person right now on the street has no house. There's a person on the street right now dead hungry. And I remind myself every time I go back to the crib, you have a house, you got people that love you, you got family members that love you, you got friends that love you. That is what it's all about at the end of the day. It's not about all this fake stuff they try to program into our minds off social media and things of that nature. It's about what you have and being thankful for what you have, because there's always somebody that has it worse than you do.
I love it. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm so thankful. You guys, usually, all the guests that I bring on, this is, my first time ever meeting them. This is great.
This is my first time, too. It's cool. I like it.
No, I love it. And this also kind of helps, because I feel like we're really attracting the right people to be on the podcast. Yeah. And it's, one of those things where sometimes people will reach out to be on the podcast, and sometimes I'll reach out. But either way, I never really know what to expect from the conversation coming into it. But I feel like it always ends up being the same feeling.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're amazing. And I really want to do this longer, but as you know, we have back-to-back podcasts today.
Yes, you do.
But I thought that was a great note to end on.
I appreciate it.
Just you freaking hammered it into the wall.
By the way, Merry Christmas to all your peoples and things of that nature. Happy holidays for you out there. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays, y'all. Anyway, thank you again for being on. And real quick, last question. I always ask every single guest this. Obviously, you love to give back. You go and you speak at high schools. You help people in any type of way that you can. How can people potentially learn from you, get mentored by you, work with you, whatever it is that you have available? Is there anything, and how would they get a hold of you?
You can call me or text me. You can leave my number or whatever. Email is keithjouganatos@gmail. Instagram @keithjouganatos. Twitter, whatever you want to do.
I will put your name in the bio so they know how to spell your last name.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And the one thing I would say is that we all have an identity. You know, everyone has an identity in this life. But it's not your identity that makes you who you are. A lot of people think we have titles, like I'm a radio person, or I do podcasts, or I do PA for the River Cats. That's not what's important. What is important is that what you use that title for. Because if all you are is a title, then you are lost as a person. So always remember, don't let your title define who you are as a person. Use that to give back and things of that nature. That's what I would tell people.
I love it.
Awesome.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and blessings to you and your family, and happy holidays and all that stuff.
Happy holidays.
Awesome.